What's going on? So I got asked recently my thoughts on Michael Jackson's history, which is 30 years old. I think I probably did a previous video, but I'll do it again because it came out um, recently, remembering 16 years since his transition. And I thought I would kind of touch about remembering the hype and the hoopla behind this record. There was so much going on. He got married to Lisa Marie Presley. He had those first allegations, which would turn out to be false, but it did much sadly damage before the dinosaur interview. A whole lot of stuff that was going on, and the media and how they was out to get him, which is true. They never found nothing, but a lot of people who were haters, and they still are, like Oprah and Gail Winfrey and all them other jive turkeys and them fakery people in Hollywood, both black and white, who turned on him. Cat Williams, you gave that little nice comeback that you know how you felt. You said what you said the first time. I remember Mark Curry. I remember a lot of them turned on him. Your people can talk trash about Steve Harvey if you want to, but Steve was with Michael, going to church with him. Y'all can clown all y'all want. I remember. There weren't but so many people that was giving Michael Jackson the love. So anyway, the History album comes out. And that was when it was going up against Mary J. Blige and Method Man, or You All Need to Get By. So anyway, lead off single with Scream with Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson on the Jimmy Jam Terry Lewis co-production with Michael and Janet. Star-studded, everybody had their camps. And I'm just going to go by track because I mentioned a little footnote about everything that was going on with Michael's Orbit. The album, I remember, there's a lot going on with that. The tour, when he had all the statues erect, sent down Europe and flown on. What a production. The Cat was the last of that true superstar larger than life who really know how to live it up. I mean, he put everything on full blast. Just amazing when you think about that in totality because of the hype. And that's what you miss in artists. We don't have that no more. Anyway, the Scream track, which I think I've talked about before, which to me just sounded like Jam and Lewis doing what they did with Prince with the time sound, that 85 cadence and groove, which that's basically when they used the synth bass groove that they had. And it was all right if it was 10 years prior. I think it was the language that the Jacksons were pretty strong with, and also the video was incredible. It was a great choreography, but the song was always kind of like, it was kind of generic because they had done that sound to death, so it really didn't add nothing. They Don't Care About Us was raw, organic. It was his ode to Gil Scott Heron, his ode to Marvin Gaye, his ode to Curtis Mayfield. Black empowerment song. It's still very well felt, and it was definitely felt in Black Lives Matter and the marches and protests. So much respect on that song in particular. Stranger in Moscow is one of the greatest songs ever, and in his catalog, if he did more songs like that, he was a very good songwriter. But if he did more songs like that, I think more people would look at his artistry even more mind blowing, because that was one of those times where he just put aside the imagery, put aside what he was doing, and it was rawness, and it was the closest thing, dare I say, to his early 70s work in terms of when he was a member of Jackson 5 when he was a young boy with solo career, because that innocence from Got to Be There to Hear Stranger in Moscow, it still knocks me out. Incredible tone, and I love the cadence and the whole vibe and aura of it. This time around, now he did this one with Dallas Austin. I thought the beat was teeny. I like Biggie on the. I thought they worked really well. Had a power punch with the lyrical, but the song was missing. It just didn't have enough heat. The beat was weak. I thought the beatboxing Michael did was tight. Earth Song was the jam. I mean, he really, the build up, that sax, that interlude that was kind of what we call in the fog, the way the instrumentation. This was a bad outtake, by the way. Would have been originally on the Decade album, The Greatest Hits, that was a plan for 1989. He sat on a lot of tracks. You just don't know when he come out. A lot of people don't understand how prolific and productive the cat was. He sat on a lot of stuff that he would sit on for projects, but he had cut a lot of stuff. So this was a very powerful song. His vocals and his outro is still the truth, still bananas. DS, I never really cared for. I know it's about Tom Shedden and the whole Santa Barbara County thing, and I understand dissing him, but he should say that for like a sidetrack or something. This didn't really fly, and it was kind of like a vanity track, kind of like a take. Money was an underrated cut. Now Rogers on the guitar on the cut. Um, it just needed to be developed more, and I think had it gone live, it could have been an interesting track. You Are Not Alone, what he did with R. Kelly, classic. They made history together, first on the debut #1 pop. You can say what you want to say about R. Kelly. R. Kelly is one of the greatest artists of the last 30 years, dominated his own self in R&B. Now, I knew Michael had done the co-production credit because of the Elephant synthesizer part at the beginning. See, when you a music geek and you a nerd like that, you study people's cadences. When you pick up certain things, you're like, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. I know exactly what that means. That's what came from. So love that song. It meant a lot. Childhood, uh, the strings, everything for Free Willy 2. Michael sung out of it. David Foster did the production. You could tell with the overcast strings and the heavy chording that he does, like he did with Celine Dion, because he loves that heavy chorded stuff. But Michael sounded good vocally. I love how he did that Karen Carpenter thing with a Sinatra ode. With that, that's why I understand what Foster compared him to Sinatra, because it's the way he could do things with his voice. And when you listen to the versatility of this record, it's got something for everyone. It's something when you hear about the instrumentations and arrangements. Too Bad, another Jeremy Lewis track, just like Tabloid Junkie. They went into the same corn. Tabloid Junkie would have worked better in the late 80s. It had an interesting groove to it. Too Bad, the same thing. I like the chorus, Tabloid Junkie, but Jeremy Lewis just basically gave him what I call second and third tier tracks. And they weren't at the apex of what they had done in the 80s, but it was a meeting of the minds, kind of like what it would have been. Same thing with History, the title track, which was pretty heavy with a lot going on, kind of bloated. So it was, I like the Boys to Men chorus in the background. And I like how Michael was singing it like he was talking through a microphone. He had that preacher tone, and that was a feeling in there, but it was kind of lost. There was a lot of stuff that was overproduced and lacking that cohesiveness to tie it together. Little Susie was one of those kind of Michael songs where kind of like Be Not Always. He had those kind of whimsical songs that he came up with. Die Hard fans might appreciate them. They can be kind of creepy to a certain extent because of the way the haunting tone of him. But he always had characters in his songs. He always had like this gore, which wouldn't have been out of a Stephen King novel, which would have served well for a horror movie because it had this cryptic way the door opens and you don't know. He had those. Come Together was strong in the bad during the I want to say the Moonwalker movie, not necessarily for the album track. I think it was kind of dated. It was originally supposed to be for the Days of Thunder, the soundtrack with Tom Cruise movie didn't come out on the soundtrack, and I think that he put this out in 88, 89. It would have been tough. I like the way the music and the arrangement, because I think it fit him. It had that Michael sound, if you know, had his sound, but it just sat in the can too long. So I think it was a victim of the can. It could have been a better song. Smile is nod to Charlie Chaplin, who was a musical hero of his. Loved the arrangement. Jeremy Lubbock did that. The tone was sweet. The vocals was nice. When he does those kind of balladry, show tune type songs, how can you compare him to any other musician or artist? And I always detested when people say entertain. That man was an artist. Listen to the musicality on this record. How many people could still pull that off 25 years into their career? Let that sink in. I mean, he had a tapestry of a whole lot of things going on. Now, mixed results. Because most of the buddy of mine who's a music writer once said about Michael post Quincy, he said it was like trying to make bologna out into steak. It's not the same. There was a few people that were on point, but a lot of it was it was hit and miss. This was the first time I'd say hit and miss in his epic record solo career. But there were some classics on here. They Don't Care About Us, Stranger Moscow, Earth Song, and You're Not Alone hit me. And I liked elements of Childhood and Smile. So I think it was a decent record. It was, obviously the first album with the hits, the history book one with the hits, you can put his verses up against anybody. His solo career speaks for itself. So I don't think if we're doing this one, that can go against anybody on verses. And it's going to be hard to beat Michael Jackson. He comes up with his 15 best songs. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. But on this too, hit and miss. It's the first time I thought that the vulnerability and that there was a little extra trim. So some things worked, some didn't. But it's how I remember it 30 years later. It's still pretty much the same way I felt back then. His vocals and the musicality were incredible. The arrangement productions. It's just that some of the songs, I think they could have found something else or something because there was some stuff. And interestingly, no Teddy Riley on here. So that was interesting. He didn't make the cut on that. And I do understand because I didn't really care for Blood on the Dance Floor. But anyway, that's my thought and take about remembering Michael Jackson's history at 30. Please like, subscribe, welcome thoughts, comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Peace. The best. I'm out one time. Peace.